Good day. In this day, I'm going to present you what it takes to pass interviews with FANGs based on my experiences coaching and also interacting with some of the people that bought my training programs. And this will be primarily in response to some people saying that, hey, but why do you need to be so good with interviewing skills? Because, it's sometimes you're just good enough, so long you have the technical expertise and you have a little bit of knowledge of behavioral interviews, you're going to be fine. Well, in my experience, this is not at all the case. And to prove my point, I'm going to share with you 5 scenarios, 5 journeys of people I've worked with recently and who are successful in these endeavors. Okay, so the first scenario was someone who was a director at Google and was impacted by a layoff, and they were looking for a new role, but a new role with another FANG. And even though they had Google in their CV, even though they were a director level role, someone who's assumed to be speaking well already, someone who's knowledgeable, someone who receives training, hands-on training even at Google when it comes to these behavioral interviews, they still took 3 coaching sessions just in case. Furthermore, as a backup, they didn't only interview with another FANG, but had a backup offer from another non-FANG companies. Right? So to prove my point that it's good enough. It's rarely something that candidates say going into job interviews, especially with FANGs. The second scenario, the one of a senior accountant, okay, who basically, they used to run their accounting business in the past. And they had plenty of experience. Someone, again, who speaks really well, who's really knowledgeable about behavioral interviews and human behavior in general, took 5 coaching sessions just in order, to optimize their chances to pass these interviews. It was with Amazon this time. And not only that, but they prefer to have 2-hour coaching sessions instead of just 1, because this way we would make it, a bit more intense as an experience, and therefore, basically further improve their behavioral interviewing skills. Right? So again, someone who could have easily said that, hey, I'm good enough. I have plenty of experience. She had a great CV, so it didn't really make sense in the context of a good enough candidate, but still they went one step further, right? The third scenario, that of someone who's my customer since 2019. I helped them land a job with Meta. They were coming from Oracle at the time. So I helped them back then, and last year or this beginning of this year, I think it was. They got invited for a customer technical program manager role with NVIDIA, a senior role. And still, even though they interviewed well, even though they worked in a reputable company, I said, hey, Dan, could you coach me? Could I take 1 or 2 more coaching sessions? I think he also looked over my trainings, if I'm not mistaken. But still, they said, hey, refreshing my interviewing skills is something that I'm willing to invest on. Simply, it's not enough that they knew they were good. They already have a story bank. They already knew the interview. They already knew what I was selling, right? But still, they went one step further to achieve that goal, right? A fourth scenario, that of another accountant, Patrick. They basically took a lot of coaching. A lot of coaching from me for an Amazon interview, which they failed. Okay, so they failed their interview, and then 6 months later, or 1 year later, I'm not sure, a few months later, they purchased again my coaching sessions. This time to land a job with another company. It's not a FANG company; it's a very highly successful company. Right, so someone who could have easily said, "Hey, I interviewed for Amazon. I failed it, but it was close. But anyway, I know everything about behavioral interviews." He knew everything about behavioral interviews, but he still took more coaching sessions, even though he failed even with me the first time, and then ultimately landed a job, which is a pretty good opportunity for him. Actually, I'm thinking right now, I think it's an even better opportunity than it would have been with Amazon, right? And the fifth scenario, and this would be a combination of multiple people, but this is something I do quite often with people who are obsessed about passing interviews, is that they book coaching sessions in advance, like 5 or 10 coaching sessions in advance. Yes, they know they would need coaching, but they don't know how much, but they want to stay in the game, stay in the loop. Because what happens is that if you take one coaching session, then you take one more. If you need it, then you take one more. If you really need it, then it's not necessarily where you get to the most the most incentivized process, right? So some people prefer to simply take coaching sessions until they they feel like, hey, yes, I've done everything that was in my power to take them, right? Now, please don't start with 5 coaching sessions with me. Take only one. If you take my trainings, even better. But the point is that some people know that it's about obsessing over improving their performance that will ultimately improve their chances to pass these interviews. And in my experience, this is what worked. Okay, of course, there will be failure with this approach, but in my opinion, it's also a great outcome if you fail that interview and you know why you failed it. Hey, I wasn't there. If you failed it for the time, yes, I wasn't senior enough, or maybe the role wasn't for me. It wasn't the type of qualifications I had, but still I took a good shot at it. This is in comparison, with the good enough. You think, hey, I'm good enough. This is quite boring. I want to assist. I don't think this is the main thing, right? So, long story short, people who have been successful, whom I work with, were always pretty obsessed about passing these interviews. So I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.